Had your kids, had your wife.
The gays are coming. There has been a long debate on if pride is appropriate for children, and that debate just blew up on Twitter. Normally this debate is between conservatives and liberals, but I think this debate's particularly interesting because it seems that it's blowing up around leftists. It all started off with Big Joel tweeting, "The notion that exposing kids to the concept of adult sexuality is inherently predatory, harmful, or toxic is really odd on the face of it, in my opinion. Seems to obscure the actual structures of abuse and power that victimize kids in real life." I thought, yeah, this is good. Growing up as a conservative Christian, I was terrified of sex. Our sex ed was basically that sex ed scene from Mean Girls.
Don't have sex, because you will get pregnant and die. Don't have sex in the missionary position. Don't have sex standing up. Just don't do it, promise?
But ours was just worse. It was somehow so much worse. I remember that our school had this woman come in and she explained that when she first had sex, she got AIDS. And she warned us not to have sex or else we could get AIDS too. And then she just started sobbing and her husband was just like holding her. And it was just very, I don't want to say traumatizing, but we were all terrified to have sex. And mind you, she wasn't like, oh, like I got AIDS and here's how you can have sex to prevent STDs. She's like, just don't do it. Just don't have sex. Mind you, most of us were already like good Christian kids. We weren't thinking about sex. We were really like odd teenagers. I mean, I'm sure there were people who were. We weren't even about to do something like that. And that person terrified us. We're like, I'm not even gonna have sex when I'm married. That was our sex education. Not to mention that in Christianity, they say that if you have sex with someone, you give a part of your soul to them. And it basically ends up being like a Horcrux in Harry Potter.
This is a violation against nature.
Can you only split the soul once? For instance, 6 and 7.
7? Merlin's beard, Tom.
So needless to say, a lot of my life, I have had a very unhealthy relationship with sex, full of shame and judgment and fear. So the first time that I had sex, I was actually really angry. I was angry because there was no way that a part of my soul went out of my body and into this other person. Like, it just wasn't that good. It definitely was not at all soul changing. So after I left Christianity, I started to become very critical on how our society views sex. And this is where Big Joel's tweet comes in. If I'm understanding this correctly, I agree. I don't think it's inherently wrong to expose kids to the concept of sexuality. I think it actually has the potential to be really helpful. And by this, I mean, looking back as I was growing up, I think it would have been a lot more helpful instead of striking fear into me when sex came up, to instead just be able to talk about it frankly. Sex is a huge part of many of our lives, and I wish that we could just talk about it honestly. If I had had that growing up as a kid, I think I would have a much healthier relationship with sex rather than trying to shed this puritanical, oppressive Christian view that still pops up for me. Now at this point, I don't think I really said anything super controversial, at least not to leftists. You might have conservatives being like, you just can't talk about sex. You just can't expose kids to sex. We gotta save the children and we're hurting them. But I think to a lot of leftists, generally like, yeah, it's fine. Like you just want to be like real about something that we all experience. You want to be able to talk about it. It sounds fine. Nothing to see here. Just keep on scrolling on your Twitter feed. Only to see this. Shoe0nHead responded to Big Joel with this. I'm dying on the hill that children should not be anywhere near adult themed shit, whether that be drag shows or kink. And if the Overton window has shifted so far that I'm a reactionary for this take, then so be it. Sorry, it just seems a little dramatic, you know, like, then so be it. Okay. And really, a drag show. Has this person ever been to a drag show? They are so wholesome. I think they're wholesome because you just have these really creative people showing off what they can do. You have these people who make their own costumes and props, and then they choreograph their own dances and do their own makeup. Unlike pop stars have, you know, someone to do their makeup, someone to choreograph their music, someone to make costumes. They have this whole team of people. But when you see drag shows, often you're just seeing people who are just creative in all these ways, just making this thing happen. And then the crowd is just admiring them. They're like, yes, this is so amazing. I'm just even in competition, the crowd is just so happy and excited to see these people perform. It feels like this massive celebration. And to say that these places are inherently inappropriate for kids is just a slap in the face to these amazing people. Like really, it makes me wonder if this person has even been to a drag show. Because this person has, I'm just shocked that they have, and that was their takeaway. So there's this really incredible dance crew that is choreographed by Trisha Miranda, and these dances aren't meant to be explicitly sexual. But it also seems that in general, expressing one's sexuality and self-expression can often be the same act. And I think these dances are a very clear example of that. And at the same time, I don't think that most people watching this would feel that this space is inappropriate for kids. In fact, there are kids in this dance crew as well. I don't feel as if these kids are being exposed to something harmful simply because there are adults there expressing their sexuality. I don't believe that these children are being traumatized or hurt by being in this environment. Rather, they seem to be in a supportive place that cultivates their passion for dancing and self-expression. There are so many examples where adults express their sexuality in a day-to-day way that is perfectly acceptable to many. Clearly, our culture thinks that it's okay for millions of kids to see Beyonce dance at the Super Bowl, but it's not okay for kids to see a drag show? Pop culture steals so much from drag, and yet drag is demonized. But when heterosexual people perform the same thing, it's fine. It's almost as if the issue isn't that kids are seeing people express their sexuality, but that only expressing heteronormative sexuality is acceptable. It is, that's definitely what's happening. This is why pride is important. Pride is about being proud of your romantic orientation, sexuality, and gender identity in a world that demonizes us for it. There are a lot of people who would tell me that I should feel ashamed for how and who I have sex with. I definitely feel tired. I don't want to argue with people and justify myself, but I myself don't actually feel ashamed. I feel proud. Hopefully one day expressing this won't be a big deal, but we have to keep on expressing it in order for that to be normalized. If you're practicing pride in a way that leaves out this expression in order to make cis, hetero people feel comfortable, then it's not really pride. It's just upkeeping and maintaining the system that oppresses you. Demonizing queer people for expressing their sexuality, but being fine with hetero people expressing their sexuality, doesn't help anyone's kids. No one's kids are getting helped out. But it does hurt queer people. It allows those kids to grow up afraid of us. It makes it harder to be sex positive, and it helps continue conservative and puritanical culture. Lauren Southern retweeted Shoe0nHead's post saying, oh wait, here's a little background on Lauren Southern because I forget that maybe not everyone knows her. She just, she's one of those people who's like, there's too many black people around. We gotta get rid of them. They're replacing us. The great replacement lady. And so Lauren Southern retweeted Shoe0nHead's post agreeing with her. And she also made a new post replying to Big Joel saying, no, he's not talking about sex ed and basic conversations of biology, which of course need to be taught. This wider context is discussing and defending kids attending highly sexualized events. In this reply, she then put a picture of a child smiling at 3 people in dog masks, as if that picture spoke for itself that we shouldn't let kids anywhere near pride. But I didn't see the picture as that proof. I saw 3 adults expressing their sexuality, and instead of them being demonized for expressing themselves, they were accepted. I feel really happy when I look at this picture because maybe one day just as heteronormative people can express their sexuality without being demonized, perhaps queer people will be able to do so as well. Perhaps. I'm not saying that I think we shouldn't have conversations about how sex affects us. I think this is actually one of those conversations and we should have more. We are coming out of a very Puritan culture, also mixed with capitalism and sex sells. So it's just a very strange dichotomy that we're living in. It's weird. But I am saying this because I think that being critical also includes asking who we are hurting and helping when we condemn others. Because when we condemn queer people for expressing their sexuality, we're not helping kids. And we're not helping queer people. Hey everyone, let me know what you think of this video. This is something that has really bothered me for quite some time, and when I've brought it up, I've gotten a lot of backlash. So I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are on all of this. I'm not sure if I'm gonna get canceled or something like that. Only time will tell. Going by is a list of patrons. If you'd like to be on this list, then donate on the link below. We also have a book club on Patreon as well. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss anything. And thank you so much everyone. I'll see you in the next video.